This is the East Lyme Board of Selectmen special meeting of March 31st. We have gone through the first quarter of the year already. It's a 7 o'clock meeting, and we are doing it by Zoom. I'm calling the meeting to order. I will say the Pledge of Allegiance. You can all follow along or whisper your own version. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. Tonight we're getting together. This is the first of what would appear as many discussions about the use of the American Rescue Funds that are owed to the town or have been promised to the town, and we'll know more details in the coming weeks and months on exactly the right amount. But we, in a previous meeting, the Board of Selectmen had prioritized needs in this town versus the wants, and there'll be some money for wants as well, things that we've wanted to do in our town for a long time. But we have identified needs, and that specifically to help people in our community. And tonight we're going to hear from Karen Share and the Shoreline Soup Kitchen and Pantry. And we'll start off with Pat Payne. Hi, Pat.
Hi there. Thank you for having me, and thank you for thinking of us.
Yeah, well, of course, we think of you and we praise you often, Pat. You are the president of Karen Share?
I am the new president of Karen Share. My office took effect in January of this year. I've been on the board for a year prior, but I've been a packer at the pantry for the last 7 years. And that what entails is like twice a month I go in and I pack up groceries for our clients. Now, if you got a few minutes, bear with me. I found out a lot about Karen Share once I became president, and I want to give you just a little history. So bear with me for a few minutes. I'm going to read some of this because there's a fair amount. We were established in 1989. We are a 501(c)(3), that's C3. We are all volunteers. All the money and food is donated. We have 100 members. About 60 members are active. We service about 175 families a year, and from Niantic, East Lyme, and Salem. Our clients have to prove that they live in our towns, and they have to prove a need. We feed about 70 to 80 families a month. We give them almost a month's worth of groceries. Last year, we got about 15 new families, but we've also, some of our families have moved out or they no longer need Karen Share. So the number is growing slowly, but not as much as we thought it would. We give, with our groceries, we give food cards. We give about a $20 food card to a family of 2, and a $30 food card for a family of 3 and more. We do spring baskets, which is a complete basket filled with all kinds of food for the spring holidays. We did 100 of those this year. We do Thanksgiving baskets, turkeys and all the fixings. We did 130 families for that. Holiday baskets, Christmas time, we did 135 baskets. We have a Christmas store where everything is donated for our families, and we had 140 families participate. We have what we call emergency assistance, which means is our clients can apply for emergency assistance. Last year, it was $300 a family, and we upped it up to $400. But this year, because we have gotten some donations, we have now upped it to $800 a family. And what this means, if they need help for car repairs, medical, taxes, anything, rent, we will send a check out to whoever they want us to send the check to. We also do designated assistance, and we do about 30 families of this where our clients will designate. Every month we send a check for up to $100 for either their electric bill, their rent, their fuel, whatever they designate. We automatically send the check out the first of the month to whoever they need the help with. We supplied 75 grade appropriate backpacks. We supply winter coats. We work with New London Days and Make a Difference, and we had a family, and we collected over $1,000 for this family this past Christmas. We have Project Warm Up, where we will help pay for fuel. We do 4 scholarships a year for credit and non-credit courses for up to $2,500 per student. We do summer camperships. All of our communication so far is through Facebook or our website. The other thing we do is we do assist the nurses at the different schools, and we provide underwear, socks, and clean clothes in case our children need clean clothing. We occasionally have food bins out where we collect food. Our big fundraiser is our annual appeal that's in October. And of course, we send out thank you notes to everybody that donates food and money to us. So that's a little bit of what Care and Share does. We do an awful lot in small quantities for all of our clients. Now, you're going to ask me, how are we affected by COVID? We were utterly amazed that our client list did not jump significantly. It just grew a little. But we have found that our clientele is changing. We're getting more single families with kids. We're getting more seniors than we have ever had. And large families, we have some, but it's not as many as we used to have. People have been extremely generous with Care and Share, and we are utterly amazed at the amount of donations that we have gotten. And because of the donations that we have gotten, we have increased what we are doing for our clients. We've upped our food grid, so they're getting more food. We've upped the food cards they're getting, and that kind of thing. So we are, as our money comes in, we are increasing what we offer to our families. Any questions so far?
Oh, there'll be lots of questions. Yeah, sure.
Okay. Okay.
I'm very interested in your, we all know about your food distribution.
Right.
We all know about that. We always see you in the community collecting, and in groups collecting for you. But it's that emergency assistance that I'm focused in on as this board starts to ponder how we can, what our outreach is going to be for your coming needs. And you haven't seen it yet, but you know, the anticipation of this coronavirus, the COVID, the pandemic, in the coming years, because people, you know, they're holding on. We're still collecting taxes and on pace to collect, you know, the 99% of our taxes, but it's they're hanging on. And eventually people are going to slip if they can't get rehired. And, you know, right now people are still on unemployment. They're getting that extra kick on unemployment, and they're getting stimulus checks, and they're getting tax returns from their job when they had a job. It's those who are unemployed or now have lost their career as things are shut down and might not open up again. So the anticipation, do you have any idea, have you seen anything in your industry, in your field, that is going to indicate the need going forward?
We have noticed an increase.
Yeah.
People are asking for more. As I said, last year we used to give $300 a family.
Yeah.
This year we're giving $800. And all they have to do is call into our hotline, and our first responders, the women who answer the phones, they are well aware of the clients and the client's situation. And all they have to do is say, I need help with my taxes, or I need help, you know, my car repairs are due, and I need my car to drive to work. And within a day, a check is going out for them. That's how we respond.
These are people that are pre-qualified. Obviously, it's not anybody. It's not me calling up tomorrow saying, "Can I have
Sorry,
a check?"
Mark, we don't qualify.
Well, today I don't. But you know,
Yeah.
hard times fall on many people. So, but I know what you're saying. I just the other part of our conversation the other day when we had a preliminary conversation, pre-interview, if you will, is talking about your capital needs going forward so that you can better serve the next 10 or 20 years, not necessarily just in this post-pandemic era. So we talked about, you know, what your 10-year goals are, and also, you know, we have donated some space to you folks, and that has been a great relationship. And I'm glad that the Board of Selectmen made that decision many years, maybe 8 or 9 years ago. Maybe it's 10. It's been a while that you've been up on Roxbury Road.
Right.
But yeah, I've been in this space several times. You might have some needs in there. Have you itemized those?
Funniest thing about that. Yes. Me and my team have put together quite a list for you. A lot of the stuff we have is hand-me-downs. Hand-me-down once, maybe twice. We do have a fairly new freezer and two fairly new freezers, but we need 2 more new commercial freezers. We need 2 large refrigerators, because what we have now is the refrigerators we're using, they're probably about 25 years old, and they have to be defrosted every few months, and they are so old that they are not very efficient. So we could use things like that. We would love to increase the amount of food cards we give to our clients, because Stop and Shop food cards. We would also like to start giving out gas cards. We want to increase the designated assistance and increase our emergency assistance, and we want to initiate a child care assistance program where we would help give our clients monies towards child care. We need new front door, new side door. We need larger space. We need a generator on demand, because heaven forbid the power goes out. There goes our freezers that are filled with bread, meats, and turkeys and whatever. The whole place needs a painting and cleaning and air conditioning, and the other simple things we need is an outside auditor. We need better electrical supplies. We need new grocery carts with larger wheels, a copier, better lighting. The bathroom needs upgrading. Sorry about the list, but needless to say, we do have a few things on our wish list. However, we appreciate the space we have. We think it's a fabulous place. What's good about it as our clients, it's a form of privacy. It's not like they're downtown. When they come, it's not like they're being exposed to everybody. And that's something we take a lot of care of, to protect the privacy of our clients.
That's important too. You mentioned that space. You have some adjacent space in that building that's used for storage. I failed to contact. I need to talk to a few department heads on whether that's space that we could give up or let you grow into. But I'll work on that piece. You'll work on some prices on actual itemized things. I do know the town will have a generator or 2 left over from the build of the new police building, and maybe we can give you a hand-me-down generator that's still working and all that. These are big suckers that could drive your facilities. And again, if you could do some homework on range of numbers on some of your bigger items. You have lots of needs there, but I wrote down the 2 commercial freezers, 2 refrigerators, in the space. Do you have air conditioning in there now?
We have used air conditionings for the windows. So our peeps put them in this, in the summertime, and they're window units.
Yeah. I mean, you in that old barn, you're probably not going to get central air in there, but there are all sorts of different ways to cool buildings, and our resident expert, Mark Salerno, can help you with that.
Great.
He single-handedly designed the air conditioning over at the new school. I think it was Flanders.
Okay.
Not quite.
Very close to it, though, Mark, if I do remember. So that's very helpful. I'm going to open it up for questions. I'm sorry to dominate, folks. Are there other questions from the selectmen tonight?
I have a question.
I'll start off.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Roseanne.
Okay. The $800 grant that a family may be given, how often is that distributed?
That's per year. And they can get it
Okay.
They can get it in 2 or 3 different times. I mean, it's not like they have to take the full 800 all at once. In fact, we prefer that maybe they take it in 2 or 3 different breaks. But maximum right now is per family per year.
Okay. And that's direct cash out, or do they have to get local, for instance, Stop and Shop cards? How is this money handed out?
Okay, if it's the emergency assistance, the $800 a month, it goes, they have to specify it's for taxes. So we will send a check to the, the town hall. They have to, or else it's for fuel or car repairs or medical. Wherever it has to go, the check goes to the supplier, not to the client.
I see. So what is available for them in terms of cash needs?
All we have right now is the Stop and Shop gift cards. A family of
Okay.
up to 2 gets $20 a month. A family of 3 or more gets $30 a month.
I see. Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Mhm.
And I was wondering if the local grocery stores contribute any foods that are perhaps close to expiration or damaged food. Or...
Stop and Shop is giving us their day-old bread that goes right into the freezer that we give to our clients. We find that ShopRite is very, very helpful to us. They sell us their food, and we order it when it's on sale, and we order it by the case. So, and plus we get a discount on top of it. So we take full advantage of things like that.
All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Pat. Are there any other questions from the selectmen? Mark, you had started.
Sure. Just curious, can you give us a rundown of where are your revenues? Are they all donations directly to Care and Share, or do you get some help from United Way?
We do have a gentleman that does some grant writing, and we occasionally get a grant for $5,000. That's about once a year. Everything else is personal donations or matching grants. I mean, if like from Pfizer or Charter Oak or some of the other companies that will match a donation. We have been very, very fortunate in that maybe that's the wrong word to use. A few people have lost their loved ones, and they have listed Care and Share as making memorial contributions to Care and Share, and we found that that some generous donations have come in that way.
Okay. And are your normal donations that you get outside of that been about the same this year, more or less?
We've gotten more since COVID hit.
That's great. That's great to hear. Okay.
But we do have, we do have
More need, but
we do have a budget, and we spend about $180,000 a year.
Wow.
For everything that we do.
Wow.
Excellent.
That's wonderful. I'm sure that's grown since the early days of 1989. And it's just a wonderful, great momentum, and just great stuff in our community. And your organization's done a great job of doing that, putting yourself out there, and very well respected, I guess I mean to say. Are there any other questions?
Yeah, it's Dan. Hi, Pat.
Hi, Dan.
I can almost see you out my window here, I think.
Hi, Dan.
So on the, you have 2 commercial freezers and 2 refrigerators. Is that what you said?
That's what we'd like to get two new ones. Yes. I mean, we do have a couple of old ones that. Yeah. Inefficient
and
right.
About how much cubic footage do you need in the for the commercial freezing?
That's a good question. I'd have to get back to you. Right now we have 2 big chest freezers. I mean, good size chest freezers, and we have 3 stand-up freezers that are being used. I would say one of the ones is at least 25, 28 cubic feet with the stand-up ones.
Yeah. And then as far as a backup generator, so you don't lose that food. I'm just trying to get a sense of ultimately you like to have 5 or 6 units for commercial freezers.
Right.
Okay. I'm just trying to think about if the generator does come up somewhere, what kind of capacity? We'd have to make sure it's matched to the demand that you would have, and but that can be looked into. That can be ascertained and figured out.
Okay, great. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
We'll get the smart people on board with that one. All the engineers can figure out the wattage and wattage needs and what the generators can generate.
Yeah.
But it's a good point. Is how big are these systems going to be, and where can we go to get them, and hopefully for discounts since it's going to a 501c3 and all that. So things that we can look into. These will all be preliminary conversations. The ones I'm setting up for next Wednesday are preliminary as well. But to get our head in the game of what we're talking about here and what the scope is.
Right.
It sounds like Care and Share is very healthy.
We are healthy, but we're very, very conservative too.
Yes,
and,
you are.
We find that as donations are coming in, and once our basic needs are met, well, then now we're starting, looking at how can we expand to help our clients.
Right.
While we can do it. That is why we have the finances to do it.
Yeah, Mark, if I could add, it sounds, with Pat talking, it sounds like it's right now maybe not having donations of the clothing and the food isn't the good. Now would be a great time to increase sort of their capital needs. Right now, we never talk about that, and I think this would be a great time because if you have the freezers, you get a more efficient window air conditioner for just a little habitability for them too.
Right.
Some new shelving.
Right.
And for that, I think that's a great idea, and I think having that information on the freezers, and if they need doors fixed, I don't know that. I think maybe the landlord would be more responsible for fixing those doors.
Got it, Mark?
I'll get right on it. You've never seen me do handiwork. It's because I don't. But we can work together on that, Kevin. Absolutely.
No, I was kidding about that. So, yeah.
You hold the door, and we can work together as an organization, as a municipality, to put that. Absolutely. You need to have a secure piece of property and one that is insulated and all the stuff that goes along with that.
And while we're talking about, one of the things that we're going to eventually need, or we'd like to, is have a little bit bigger space. You figure like our board meetings, well, now we're doing via Zoom, but we have to go to the library because there's not enough lighting around the pantry for women or people to feel safe at night at dark. When we have our membership meetings, we have to go to the Baptist church because it's a little bit bigger space because we get maybe 30 people, 35, 40 people coming to our membership meetings. And when we have our Christmas store, we have to get a place downtown because we don't have our pantry is not big enough to put the Christmas gifts for wrapping and storing stuff for Christmas. So, if we had a little bit bigger space, that would be fabulous.
Yeah, and probably even just for storage, but
yes.
you need the space. But I did write down lighting around the building. There's a security issue out there that I wasn't aware about, so we'll look at that. We don't want to light it up too much. It's also a neighborhood, and we've tried to cut down on the industrialness of that spot. But we should still have your members coming in and out of there safely. I agree with that, and. Well, we'll look into that, and I am going to look into that adjacent space for you. If it's being used, if it's valued by the town, and the balance of, if we give it up, is it okay? Because you obviously, you are a strong part of our social safety net in town, social services safety net. We don't do it on our own. We do rely on some of the state organizations, mostly based out of New London and Norwich. But you are our in-town, in-person, and in a group of 100 people, taking care of those people that are reaching out. So I'm so grateful for that. Are there other questions?
No, the other thing that we'd like is, excuse me, I was just going to, the other thing we'd like is the security system. Maybe change, get a key code or something for the door, or some kind of security system. I think I'm sorry, but I did hit you with a lot of stuff that we could use.
You sure did. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry I asked, but you did your homework, and I appreciate that. It would have been a lot worse you coming up saying, I don't know, we'll figure it out. We'll write it down, and we'll see where we're at with this thing. We certainly want to make sure we're taking care of the needs, but we also want to strengthen our support of you and for your organization to be strong going forward for the next 10 or 20 years. Roseanne, you had a question?
Yes. Could you tell us again, if you've got the breakdown, the number of year-round clients that you have, just an approximate number, and whether or not that number has increased markedly since COVID.
We service about 175 families a year. That number has gone up a little, but we have lost some, so it's gone up a little, not an overabundance since last year.
Okay. So on a regular annual yearly basis, we could say that it's close to 200 families that you assist.
Yeah, about 150 to 175, yes, and we expect it to grow. Yes, definitely expect it to grow. And
Okay.
we feed 70 to 80 families a month.
Mm-hmm.
So they may come in 1 month and they may not come in for another 2 months, but we're averaging about that per month.
All right, thank you. Now, the scholarships, are those limited to your client list?
Correct. Clients are clients' children.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And is that money?
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Is that money available for adults as well who wish to go to school or go back for training?
It is for credit and non-credit courses, and it is for adult and for the adults and the children of our clients. Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Mark, a couple items. First of all, it'd be great if we had an extra generator, but in addition to that, the wiring to be able to support that, and then how the rest of the building is powered would have to be figured out, and that cost would have to be included. The second item is, Pat, you had quite a few items, and it would be beneficial, at least to me, and I think to all of us, if you could prioritize those. What comes first? What do you need the most compared to all those items? And finally, I'd just like to recognize you and your organization. You are a recognized organization in this town, and you are definitely taking care of a recognized need. So thank you very much for all that you all do.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for thinking of us during this time, and whatever you can do to help would be fabulous.
Yeah. Believe me, we need you. We need you in our community. Other questions? I think Paul put it right. With this big list, we want to support you, and we need to wrap our head around the scope on the support that we'd be giving. So priority would be very helpful.
Who should I send that to?
Well, to me, Pat.
Okay.
Sure, and then probably when we're getting close to disbursement time, we might have you come back, and then we can really talk about the nuts and bolts of it. We'd like you, when you put this in priority order, maybe to do some homework on what the costs might be, just to give us some indication. We're gonna have a lot of groups coming to us, and a lot of departments coming to us, and give us some scope. So maybe if you have people on your volunteer committee that would be looking into, well, if we got this extra space and we remodeled it, the space in the back, what are you looking to, how much did that cost? The commercial freezers, the commercial refrigerators. Let's talk about that. Okay. All right. That'd be very helpful.
Okay.
And you put that together and reach back out to me, and we'll get it back out to the selectmen.
Sounds fabulous. Great. Thank you.
Are there any other
Thank you, Pat.
Okay.
We said this would be about 30 minutes. We're right on the nose, Pat. So thank you very much for being efficient, succinct, but also so informative. Thank you.
Thank
Mark,
you.
one more last question, Pat, if it's okay for me to ask.
Sure.
How many square feet do you have now?
I think about 900, 800.
Thank you.
We'd like 3,000. You told me a wish list. You told me, what would we like?
We'll find you a vacant house out in Old Black Point. Put you right out there.
And even where we are is just fine, and we'll make do with what we have. But thank you.
I'll thank you, Pat. Thank you for all you do. Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Nice to hear.
Good night, Pat.
Right.
Before I segue to our next guest, and I see she's here, I did inquire with the school today about their free lunch program. And I asked Mr. Newton how many families would qualify in our town for the free lunch program. And he said about almost 20%. You said 19% of our kids. So 1 out of 5 would qualify. They don't all take it, but they would qualify. They would hit the demographic of that program. So, you know, we got to remember that there's a whole spectrum of citizens out there, and I'm so grateful for the service that Care and Share provides, and the services that the Shoreline Soup Kitchen and Pantries provide as well. Amy Hollis, welcome.
Thank you. It's wonderful to see you all. It's great to connect via Zoom.
Nice to see you. I spoke to you the other day. Your local lead chief Indian, I don't know if you can say that anymore, but Sharon Wise couldn't make it tonight, but we're very happy to have you. Where are you calling from?
So this is my house. I live in Westbrook, Connecticut. I'm the executive director of the Shoreline Soup Kitchens and Pantries. So I
didn't know a whole lot about it until I started learning a whole lot about it. So you're just another group in town, much like Care and Share, but you're a bigger organization. You do stretch the shoreline. Yes.
So I'm just so grateful to be here. And so your awareness and trying to look at those basic needs that are in your community and how you can partner together, how we can strengthen the fabric of our communities, that speaks to me. No matter what you choose to do or not, the conversation is really valuable and important. So the Shoreline Soup Kitchens and Pantries was founded in 1989 in a little town you've probably heard of, Essex, Connecticut. A community of faith there had a vision day and like, what should we do? How can we help the community? And somebody said, well, you know, we should do something to feed people. And there was a question like, you know, we're in Essex. People aren't hungry. You know, people aren't struggling. This is Essex, Connecticut, 1989. And one person who I happen to know, she told that group, you know, go down to this specific dumpster at night and look. People needed to have their eyes open to realize there were people who were hungry in our communities. And you just spoke, you said you talked to the local superintendent or principal who told you 20% are eligible for free and reduced lunch. And that's right in line with the asset limited income constrained employed, the newer term of working poor. For East Lyme is 22%. So that's almost exactly with the last year's Alice report. That's who most of our pantries like Care and Share are supporting. It's not a poverty line. There's a small percent in poverty in our communities, but a lot of the individuals are just, you know, one paycheck away. That unemployment benefit ending from needing support. So our mission is very straightforward. We provide food and fellowship to those who come. And we serve 11 towns. We have a pantry in East Lyme. We are hoping to maybe expand our meal sites to have a meal site on that side of the river again. Our old Lyme meal site had to close because of the pandemic, or for a period of time. We're hoping it will reopen, but we would love to have a meal site open in East Lyme. East Lyme in 2019 had 780 registered guests who were from the town of Old Lyme. So residents of East Lyme can get groceries from our East Lyme pantry. They could go to our Westbrook pantry, because if I live in Westbrook, I may not want to go to the local pantry in town because I may not want to see my neighbors. I may want to go to another pantry. So we have guests register where they're from, and then they can go to another pantry. They can visit one of our sites every single week for groceries. They're usually receiving 40 to 50 pounds of food. Last year in East Lyme itself, we provided over 250,000 pounds of food to guests at that pantry in East Lyme. 250,000 pounds of food was shared in East Lyme with your neighbors. It fed over 18,000 people through the year. It's just an incredible organization to be a part of, but it's incredible the wraparound work that we do. The Care and Share has all these different resources. We partner together. All these organizations really work to strengthen the families and be a support system. And so for me, you know, you look at how we are interconnected. First and foremost, it is making sure people know that there are resources available. That for me is as important as anything else. donations come in, we receive food, we make sure it gets to people. We have donations of money that we, are able to purchase food at a low cost, either from the stores or we are also receiving from the food banks, and that we are able to turn that around and get that to our guests. But our guests need to come. They need to know that they are welcome to come to our pantries. Everyone is welcome. If you have a neighbor who shows up, somebody who looks like they're camping and in need of food, they can come to a meal site and they can get food. No questions asked. So it's this incredible organization because I really do feel incredibly strongly that no one should lack access to food. So that's what we're doing. We're making sure that there's access to food for anyone in need. We can't always solve all the problems, but we can definitely, as a community, as individuals, make sure that nobody is starving.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, and thank you for that introduction. Do you know how many East Lyme families that you might be supporting?
So in 2019, we had 780 residents of East Lyme who were registered at our pantry, 780.
No kidding.
We did not take registration after the pandemic hit last year, just because why do any extra contact? We were trying to be as socially distanced so that we did not have to have any sites closed down. So we did not have registration at that point. We just gave out food to those who came, doing the best we could. And we know that our numbers increased. Last year, our guest and our meal count increased 50% over the year. We went from about 900,000 meals served to 1.4 meals served, 1.4 million meals served in 1 year. That's across the 5 pantries. So, we had an increase. The numbers have come down a little bit, but not that much. One of our pantries that used to serve about 100 was almost at 300 again today. So those are families, not individuals.
Amy, your local pantry in East Lyme is at St. John's
Episcopal, yes.
Episcopal Church downtown. Usually, I think it's on Thursday nights that you do. No, maybe not. Is it Thursday?
Yes, it was Thursday nights, but they moved their hours a little earlier due to the winter. You might have noticed we were outdoors.
Yeah.
We used to invite our guests to come in and they would get to shop and pick what items might best fit them. But once again, to keep our pantries open so we can make sure food got to our guests, we switched to an outdoor curbside model where people drove up and picked up groceries. And so we were outside, and in the winter, we didn't want to be out in the middle of the night. And it could be icy, and it's harder to see black ice at night.
Sure, and it's just darn cold down near the
It's
water.
very cold.
So could you, and I don't mean this in a competitive way, could you tell us the difference about what Karen Share is doing versus what you're doing? You mentioned the monthly meals that they do versus your weekly.
Yes.
Thank you.
I mean, certainly there are differences and there are similarities.
Yeah, sure.
They do provide groceries once a month to their set number of individuals who are part of their program, or registered guests. And I don't know where their threshold is for how much you can make to come to receive support. I don't know those numbers, and that's okay. We don't have that threshold. Anyone who is in need. So if you suddenly lost your job, your taxes may not show that you are in need, right, from the previous year. And yet you're still in need. During the pandemic, if you were, as my family was, completely needed to live in a bubble because of cancer or whatever was going on, you could go pick up groceries outside and still feed your family. So we are able to serve groceries every single week to everyone who comes from East Lyme at any one of our pantries.
So it might be a young adult who just ran out of money but didn't run out of the month yet, had more money had more dates on the calendar than had money in the paycheck. So it might be the last 5 days of the month and they're just out, they're down to the last ramen noodle thing. So, okay.
And so Karen Share does the wraparound, provides a lot of the wraparound services. Some of the cards will help people pay off their bills, according to Pat, things like that are happening in people's lives. We really do focus on food and fellowship. So it's an incredible amount of food that we provide. We know that there are guests who go to Karen Share and come to us because getting a bag of groceries once a month isn't enough. So you need a both and approach. So we are that continuation of food throughout the month, because you can come to a pantry and you can come to one of the 7 open meal sites right now and receive food. So you can get food, and we provide at least 3 days worth of food each week. One of my pantries did the math, and it was like $90 worth of food. We are currently able to do much less than 30 cents a meal for our groceries across our sites. Last year it was really low because of donations of food coming in. Just, you know, it was a pandemic. People were very giving.
Sure.
It changes back and forth.
Sure it does.
So there's still a need, and the need is not going away right now. We don't know what it's going to look like in the future. So we are looking at sustainability. We're looking at our strategic plan at access. What are the access points that we can help open up? You know, what are the barriers to receiving food? You know, it used to be maybe it's transportation. People can't get there. Well, working with Nine-Town Transit and the Basic Needs Task Force, we learned that they were able to even bring a bus through one of our pantries. They had the bus with guests who rode Nine-Town Transit, and they drove them to our pantry, and they loaded their groceries up, and off they went right through the pantry. And it was a wonderful, beautiful connection that was made during the pandemic. So is it transportation? Is it language? Is it knowing that you can come? Because it is very hard for many of us. I don't know about you. I'm not likely to show up at a pantry. If my family is struggling, I am not likely to say, hey, I need help. And I have Alice back here. Remember we talked about Alice, right? I have a cutout of Alice. You can't see her against the wall, but we don't often know what's going on in the lives of our neighbors. So that's why I started, first and foremost, is just talking to one another and listening. Because people will not often tell you that they need help. And that's a really hard barrier to get across without that relationship. And that's why that fellowship piece is so important.
Very, very informative, Amy. Thank you. I'll open it up to questions. I have a couple myself, but I'll give someone else a shot here. Anyone?
Amy, what's your yearly operating budget or
so our budget
you spend?
Yeah, our budget for this current year is $900,000. Last year, I'm a numbers person, so we did really well staying under budget. But this year we projected to spend a little bit more because we know that the need is going to be there, and we, you know, aren't sure what the giving patterns are. Last year people were very generous with funds coming in the middle of the pandemic, but we don't know what that's going to look like in 3 years. So it's around $900,000. That's our annual operating budget. About $300,000 goes directly to food. And most of our budget goes to operations. We have very little overhead that's not directly operational.
And the source of your funding, is it mostly donations? Is it grants? Is it United Way?
We actually have a very balanced approach. We have the majority are individual donors, but some are family foundations, some are foundations and grants, some comes through some larger foundations. We have 1% from our local towns. So a few of our towns are fairly generous. Faith communities, a little bit of matching. That's the bucket that we are able to pull from. Some of our funding also is just the donated items, the food that comes to the local food banks. Mm-hmm. And you may be aware that United Way of Southeastern Connecticut had Gemma Moran Food Bank, and that they changed their relationship with the Connecticut Food Bank this year. So we receive food from Gemma, but their main source of how they were getting food and sharing it now is going through Connecticut Food Bank. Right after that happened, Connecticut Food Bank and Food Share up in the Hartford area announced that they were merging. So we now have one food bank system through all of Connecticut. And then Gemma Moran still operates under United Way of Southeastern Connecticut and supports those of us in this area.
Okay. Yeah, great.
And what are your greatest needs going forward?
The greatest needs, as I said, we have, 2 years ago it was just under 800 of the residents from East Lyme were coming to our pantries throughout the year. It's in essence just making sure we can do that for the long haul, because we need to make sure we have food available for our neighbors, not just for today or yesterday. Because the original vision was that this business of the Shoreline Soup Kitchens was going to go out of business. Well, I don't see that in the 10-year plan. I would love to say it's going to be not needed. And then if you talk about larger things, we are, you know, Care and Share, like us, is housed in a building that is not our own. Every single one of our sites, our offices are all in space that was donated to us. Our refrigerators and freezers are all currently operating, all 30 some of them. I can't tell you that one's not going to break tomorrow or 5 are going to break tomorrow. I just don't know. We currently have operating items like that, but with 30 some of them, we will lose a few this year probably. That's just what happens. Because we move 1.6 million pounds of food a year. It's 1.6 million pounds of food we moved last year. We do, I know, it's not done by one person. It's a small staff. We have 13. Only 2 of us are full-time, tiny little staff. We rely on a lot of volunteers, 900 usually throughout the year. You know, my truck drivers tell me the biggest thing they have is maybe a new truck with a lift gate, because right now it's a lot of work. 1.6 million pounds of food, hauling it up and down off of a truck that doesn't, you know, go to a flat raised, whatever you call it, at a store, right? You back into a church. They don't have a bed where you drive up to at the level of the truck.
Right.
But as I said, part of it's just awareness. So helping your community know that Care and Share is there, that Shoreline Soup Kitchens and Pantries are there, and whatever other resources, social service providers, getting that information to your community is invaluable.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Daigle. Other questions?
I think it'd be really nice if, you know, Amy did the same thing we asked Pat to, a prioritized list would help us figure out what they might need. You know, if there's any, you said, it doesn't like you have the capital needs that Care and Share might have, but where you do have needs, if you could, you know, specify exactly where they are, I think it would help us out with a priority list. That would be great.
I can try to do that. As I said, first and foremost, I think it has to be food, because if with that amount of food, that's really what it is. Unless we can find a way to figure out a way to get a lift gate or a truck, that's that's just the reality of what our organization is.
Maybe just a quick phone call to Father Tony and the group over at St. John's, if there's anything we can do to shore up or reorganize the distribution or the storage of food, or, you know, space, because I know everybody's, you know, you're all scratching for space down there. I'm a member of the church, so I'm down there and I see the food come in and out. I'm just amazed. And I see the new refrigerators that are taking up more and more space. So maybe there's some way that maybe there's an angel donor thing that we can do that will make your relationship with St. John's a more lasting one and more symbiotic one if we could arrange the space better. Rearrange that kitchen so that I don't know. I'm thinking out of the box on that one to make sure, because the needs have grown in East Lyme. I know your distribution's grown in East Lyme and will continue to. And you know, you don't want to run out of space, and you don't want to run out of good favor.
Oh, absolutely. And I talked to Sherry Weiss about this as well, and she's our pantry manager in East Lyme, and she's wonderful. Father Tony, we were able to get a new shed last year on the property so that we had some extra storage.
Wonderful.
Because we've been in business in some ways for a long time, and because the faith communities have been such a support to us, she could not think of any of those items that we weren't really able to do. But as I said, last year the freezer suddenly died at that site, and then it was fixed, so it was working.
Great.
And in my experience, if you have a freezer and it's working, you don't change it.
No, you don't. No, we don't around here either. You know, the roof really has to cave in before we put a new roof on a building around here.
That's right.
Just ask the police.
What can Shoreline Soup Kitchens also do to help your community, right? How can we strengthen our relationship together? That's
also great. And getting to know you better is a good step forward on that. I appreciate that. Mr. Salerno, did you have a question?
Just 2 questions. Make sure I'm not muted. Okay. To follow up on Paul's question, how much, so you said your operating budget is 900K, and how much in-kind donations do you get in food directly?
A lot. Let me pull up my last year's annual report here. So last year was very unique, as you can imagine. You might have lived through it, as did we. I think last year in value, we received about $1 million worth of donated food.
That's awesome.
Yes.
That's awesome. Do you find your donations are better food, or do you if you had the same money that people spent in the food and dropped it off, do you do better with a cash donation because you can get it cheaper?
It's a combination, though. You know, the 3 weeks or whatever during the pandemic when we couldn't get any meat or anything else, it would have been helpful to have somebody bring some meat to us, but we're not there. So however we get it, we will make it work. So we do provide meat and protein every week. We provide eggs every week. We purchase on our own produce every single week of usually like bananas and apples and potatoes and carrots and onions, some of your staple items that we purchase every week because we can't get it donated.
Yep.
And then cereal we can't get donated usually, so sometimes we'll buy that if we feel like we have the resources. So it's a combination. So it is, we will make it work is the attitude of my pantry managers and my staff and the volunteers as we just find a way.
Okay.
However it comes, we'll take it and we'll make it work.
Okay. Couple more questions. How many towns do you serve? I think is it 9?
How many times? So we
Towns?
Oh, we serve 11 towns.
11 towns. Okay.
We have 5 pantries and 9 meal sites, 7 of which are up and running. And we go from East Lyme to Madison and up to Chester, Killingworth, and Lyme on the north on that side of the river. So East Lyme, Lyme, and Old Lyme on your side of the river.
Now, the truck you mentioned, does that serve all the towns?
We have 1 truck.
Okay. Have any other towns reached out to you? Or were we the only one?
We had some reach out during the pandemic. So for example, the Westbrook Foundation is in my town. They know me. Essex, we have people who know us, but nothing regarding the American Rescue Funds. I haven't heard anything regarding this. This is the first contact about this specific program.
Okay. Okay.
We'll hear some more.
They
almost
almost all know me, but you know.
No, you'll hear from them. So we're just getting a head start on it.
It's exciting.
Nice that you could make it tonight. Are there other questions?
Yeah, Dan Cunningham. I have a couple of questions. Amy, thank you.
Yeah.
Is your storage centralized or decentralized between the 5 different food banks?
So that's an excellent question. So each pantry has its own space at each, there happen to be all churches, but faith communities and individuals all support us. So they're all separate pantries that have their own storage space. We receive food every week. That's why our truck goes up to Wallingford every week to pick up food from the Connecticut Food Bank. It goes to Gemma to pick up food there. Currently, it's also going to the Crystal Mall, which is where the food bank is dropping off food for us. So we pick up food every week to restock the perishable items at each of those sites, but each site has space for freezer, refrigeration, and dry goods.
So your distribution model is that you go to several sources, 3 or 4 different sources, and then when you have that product or food on the truck, you then distribute it to the 5 different pantries that you stock, and that's where the food would reside until it's distributed.
So each pantry, the truck goes a different time for each pantry for the most part, except for there's one time when they do double duty. So on Tuesday they'll drive up to the food bank, bring the food back down to Westbrook, then they'll drive back to Wallingford and take the food back to our old Saybrook site to stock those sites back and forth. And then we also purchase from wholesale distributors who deliver directly to each pantry.
And then if there were other towns besides East Lyme that wanted to share some of this windfall that we're going to enjoy, we hope, with Shoreline Soup Kitchen, would there be anyone that would be able to coordinate that? Let's say the idea was, hey, maybe we can get them a truck if several towns pitch in, get a new vehicle. Who would spearhead that, and who would be the coordinator?
So I'm the executive director of the organization.
Yep.
That would be probably me. I've been involved in the organization since the early 2002 or something as a volunteer, then on the board of directors, then chairman of the board of directors, and now as the executive director. I've known the organization for 20 years now. So
Great.
this.
Okay, so that answers the question, and that's it for me. And thank you, Amy, for all your good work in your organization. That's wonderful.
I am grateful, so grateful for all the community effort, and thank you for having this conversation.
So I've worked with these fellows and this lady for a whole long time, serving our fine community, and I can read their minds and I know where they're going. So Dan's aiming for a consortium, a group of towns coming together. So I'm going to ask you, Amy, if you or your staff members or your truck drivers even might be able to price out what a new truck would be with the liftgate, with the ideal, the size of the box and all that. Yep. And maybe it's a used one, but whatever, maybe it probably should be one. You'll get more truck for the money. And I would be happy to take the lead and write a letter to my fellow first selectmen and mayors of the towns you serve. And see if we can get a group of towns together to share that cost. Okay. So you put some information together for me, Amy, and you already have a great relationship. We can co-sign a letter, but let's just see. Let's do some, and I'll say this to the selectmen here. I don't think I'm speaking out of turn. We're just doing it. We're investigating. We're not committing to anything, first of all. But I'm getting letters from all sorts of different groups trying to bring money together. And one of them is arts and culture. I've asked all towns to commit 1 or 2% of our American Rescue funds to art in our community. And it's of course, we should definitely do that. But this is I like this, and I like the way Dan's thinking here. If we can get some towns together, that would feel like we're really accomplishing something here. So
that would be incredible, and many of those first selectmen will know my name.
Of course. Yeah.
Noel Bishop, a couple of years ago when he was campaigning, knocked on my door. I'm like, I have a topic for you, and the next day it's like, can you come to the Board of Selectmen meeting? Yes.
I'm sure
I'll be there.
I'm sure your name carries more weight than mine does.
Oh no, we all have different connections.
Absolutely, it does. But I would be happy to help you.
Oh, I think it'd be incredible. And Norm Needleman, and I also have a meeting every month that meets at the River Cog on the other side in the lower. So yeah.
Let's see where it goes. Okay, we'll do that. Let's keep in touch, and we've already exchanged phone numbers and emails and all that.
Absolutely.
Other questions, because we're running up on the hour here. I think you've answered a lot of them. You've been very informative, Amy.
You can also know we have a truck, so there would be a trade-in value of upgrading our truck.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
that's also maybe not be as much of a cost.
That's right. That's right. So absolutely, we'll see.
Amy, follow up on that. Would it be wise to have a second truck? Like if a truck broke down, does all your distribution get shut down?
That's a great question, and obviously there's a benefit to having two trucks, but there's also a cost to having two trucks for insurance and.
Sure.
Right.
But we used to have two trucks, and they, take a lot of maintenance. But.
One fine running truck, and then enterprise rent a truck when you need it.
We've done that. We've done that when it's broken down. But I appreciate your time. Please, if there's anything I can do, if you know a neighbor in need and need to make a contact, I'm fairly easy to reach.
I'm very grateful for your time today and for all you do for so many families in our region. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful night.
You too.
Thank you.
just to follow up, to finish up the meeting, thank you all for great questions and your attention to the details here. The agenda calls for public comment, but what I'd like you to do is I have department heads and by Roseanne's request, commission members willing, able, and ready to start coming in. So there's ideas out there. There's lists that we've put together that other people have put together. But let's just keep on having these conversations. I don't want to overburden you with meetings. I certainly I don't want to say the word burden, but my schedule gets full in April, as the Board of Finance will be meeting about 6 times in April that I have to be at. But I can prepare some dates for you for the next meeting next Wednesday, and we can start piecing that together. If you'd all bring your calendars, does that sound like a plan?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Roseanne.
Okay, because I thought I muted myself when that other phone was ringing. I'd like to continue to focus on groups that directly serve people.
Yeah.
So I would like to hear from the Commission on Aging, their Meals on Wheels program, and needs for our seniors. The visiting nurses who see a lot of our residents homebound, the veterans, and then regionally, there are a couple of groups that service our local residents because we don't have our own group. So that would be Safe Futures for one, and I think that's what I have for people that might need more, that deal more with people than things. And I think that perhaps dividing our things as we think about priorities, things that are going to have a long-term lasting value.
Agreed.
Such as, tonight we heard about the need for freezers and that sort of thing. Well, that if we can solve that need, that lasts for the next 10 years.
Right.
So I think short term and long term. Those are my suggestions.
Thank you, ma'am. I have 2 groups coming next Wednesday. One is the mental health side of things, and that is Dave Putnam and his youth services in the school coming together to talk about the need for social workers and support for not just our kids in the schools, but families outside the schools. And don't forget, mental health doesn't stop being a problem after they graduate from high school. There's going to be a need. I think this pandemic is really going to expose some real stresses and anxieties on the American public for the next several years. I think we want to hear about that, and we're trying to come up with a plan that supports our citizens as a safety net for mental health. And that's coming up. We have some people working very hard on that. We'll also hear an initial conversation with the Niantic Main Street group. This money is also supposed to support businesses who are trying to recover, but also build, and we want to look for ways to build our business community. We'll hear from both of those groups at our meeting next Wednesday. One will be before the meeting at 7 o'clock, probably the mental health element, and one will be within the meeting. We also have a presentation by the Black Lives Matter group that has petitioned to talk with us, and I've given them 15 minutes for a presentation next Wednesday as well. So that is what we have on our laps. I appreciate you going through this, and this feels good. Feels like we're doing the right thing and doing it the right way, and that is gathering the information. And Roseanne, I really commend you on that list. It's a good list. I'll put those people together. And we'll talk about that. The Homeless Hospitality Center in New London is where people end up, and they do have people that from East Lyme that end up homeless. We're no different a community than anywhere else in this world. And while our share might be a little different because our demographics are different, they're always in need as well, especially in the wintertime when they're trying to keep people alive. So it's maybe a group that we consider. We might not need a presentation, but we can consider when we're gifting out money. And a little bit goes a long way with that group. So any questions, comments, thoughts?
What do we have? When are we expecting the first round of money? We got a more definite date?
90 days from March 4th. It was 60 days for the government to send it to Connecticut, and then they have 30 days to send it to us. We have still not gotten a solid answer on the county money, which scares me. But I did hear some good news that the state has money. You know, as municipalities get money and counties get money, well, of course, states are getting money too. And Connecticut intends to give money to each municipality for projects. And I gave Representative Cheeseman a whole laundry list of projects that we could ask for, including buying the Oswegatchie Hills property and ending that after 25 years, and making that a town forest. But we'll see what comes of that. But right now, you know, nothing is in the bank, so we're not going to spend any of that money. But until we get some confirmation. But I'm very confident we'll have a minimum of that 900,000, 50% of 1.8 million, and then we'll see about the county money.
How many meetings does the Board of Finance have planned?
Yeah.
Do you have that scheduled?
4, 5, 6. I mean, it might be 4, and then 2 or 3 deliberation meetings. One with the board head that I'm not going to go to. But yeah, so there's a lot of meetings, but I can find slots for us to meet, and I think that's just as important. We don't have to rush the process, but I also I remembered one other thing, and I don't want to keep us much longer. I'm going to present you all with things in mostly our capital plan that could be, we could use American Rescue money to relieve our capital, to relieve our tax burden this year. There is a little room for that. Capital one-time expenses. We have these microwave dishes that we need to replace on our communication towers that was going to be pretty expensive over the next bunch of years. We were going to use the acquisition plan to purchase them. That might be a good one. And then there was one other thing. I'm going to present that to you at next meeting. I just want you to know that that's going to be on your agenda and for your consideration. The Board of Finance is going to ask for that. They've already asked the Board of Ed. The Board of Ed has a little bit more leeway on how they can spend it because they have more immediate need in their operation budget for COVID expenses. They need more teachers, they need more tutors or paras, they need more kindergarten teachers because they need more space. They can't put as many kids in a classroom. All that's going on within their budget. Therefore, it qualifies for this COVID money. Our budget's pretty solid. We don't have COVID expenses as much as, mental health, food issues, for sure, needs in our community. And then capital expenses going forward, So that's coming at you. Any other questions?
Mark, we had talked about a form to get some general information, at least consistent from everyone. Are we going to pursue that, or we don't think we need it?
I didn't even put a thought to it. I'm sorry. I know you did say it. It's in my notes. Form for department heads? Or
no, I think more from the outside agencies. Yeah. Just, a list of items, we talk about, we're not going to be able to do everything for everybody. And it'd be a methodology for them to prioritize things. I don't know the value of it, but it was mentioned in our last meeting, so I just thought.
It was, thank you. Thanks for reminding me. Obviously, we're juggling a lot on our plate here, and now we're moving into budget season. But let me see if I can work with Sandy on that. Maybe we can put something together, or maybe Kevin, you can help me out when we bump into each other. it could be a simple form. I think most informative is getting these people in front of us, sort of in front of us on Zoom, and digging deep. But you're right. We can then present them with a form saying what's your priority, what's your budget, what's the bottom line, and the official name of your organization, what's your tax ID code, what's your just make sure they are a 501c3, all that, probably all the nitty gritty legal stuff that we probably should be doing as well. Good point, Paul. Let me see what I can do with that. Any other questions, comments? We'll go to public comment. Is there anyone here from the public who wishes to speak? If so, I see your thumbs up, Sandy. That means you're going to help me with the form, I bet, not that you want to speak. Is there anyone here from the public who wishes to speak? Hearing and seeing. If so, you just unmute yourself and you scream really loud, or you put your electronic hand up. I know there's at least one member here from the public. Okay. Just want to be fair. We have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Kevin?
Kevin moves adjournment.
Second, Salerno.
Second, Salerno. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstain? Thank you all for your attention and for your great questions. We'll see you again next Wednesday, I guess.